And then she labeled a ton of 2025, the project thing that he has completely said he doesn't back and is not a part of the Republican platform.
So what's going on with Project 2025, and the problem for Trump and Vance is that the people who lead this project are doing interviews and undercover footages coming out of them talking about how Donald Trump really does support this. And J.D. Vance writes the foreword to the book. And Donald Trump has said...
But it's not in his platform or his campaign. And his campaign has actual policies on the website.
Once again, outnumbered but never outgunned, liberal Fox News commentator Jessica Tarlov appeared on a different panel in another corner of the Fox propaganda network and relentlessly handed out one fact check after another about the 2024 election, Vice President Kamala Harris's economic proposals, Donald Trump and his connections to Project 2025. And in so doing, she visibly triggered the MAGA Republican host of the panel. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we've got one long clip to take a look at here. We might divide it into multiple segments, but Jessica Tarlov, who is the liberal co-host of The Five, appeared on a different panel in the Fox Propaganda Network, hosted by Martha McCallum, a conservative MAGA Republican host, though much like Dana Perino, she's not as MAGA Republican as, say, Jesse Waters. But her true colors revealed themselves yet again as she became visibly triggered by Jessica Tarlov's relentless fact checks. We're going to play the clip and unpack it together.
Okay, Jessica, your take on what you're hearing.
Well, I think that debate within the party is extremely healthy, and I'm glad that we're doing it and that people are coming out and representing their point of view on this. And I'm sure that Vice President Harris will take someone like Ro Khanna's ideas on board and perhaps improvise on that. But he is talking about someone getting to $100 million or $200 million. He's not talking about someone who is making $300,000 a year, right, and trying to be able to go to Disney and still send their kids to school and have a good retirement. And I think that what you're seeing, and it's reflected in all of these polls, is that the American people are hearing Kamala Harris loud and clear that she is Kamala Harris for the people. And in contrast, they are hearing Donald Trump as someone who is out to protect people who have as much money as he does. And it's going to get very difficult for her detractors to keep saying she's got nothing, she's got nothing, she's got nothing if she is rolling out these policies. They're going to have to keep nitpicking, moving the goalposts about all of this. I mean, that's exactly what people want to hear who are in the middle class, that they're going to help me start a business, that you're going to bring back.
I'm looking forward to the debate because there were so many things in there that are not part of the Trump campaign at all. And so there's no opportunity when you're listening to this to hear the other side. She said that he wanted a national sales tax, not true. That he wanted to end Obamacare, not true. That he wanted to cut off tax cuts to small businesses, also not true. And then she labeled a ton of 2025, the project thing that he has completely said he doesn't back and is not a part of the Republican platform.
What's going on with Project 2025, and the problem for Trump and Vance is that the people who lead this project are doing interviews and undercover footages coming out of them talking about how Donald Trump really does support this. And J.D. Vance writes the foreword to the book of one of the main leaders of this. And the stuff that she's talking about is in Project 2025 And Donald Trump has said...
But it's not in his platform or his campaign. And his campaign has actual policies on the website.
She's not talking about the intentional hardship that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden inflict.
So it's Dagan McDowell, who is one of the craziest, most unhinged Fox commentators employed by the network. So yeah, you can see here that Martha McCallum was triggered, so triggered by these fact checks. So a couple of things. Donald Trump has repeatedly campaigned on repealing and replacing Obamacare. He attempted to repeal Obamacare multiple times during the Trump administration, and he failed spectacularly because he's so stupid and the Republican Party is so dysfunctional. But yes, when they controlled both chambers of Congress and had a sympathetic Supreme Court, they were unable to get it done, due in large part to Senator John McCain defecting in the 11th hour and scuttling Trump's most serious attempt, most closest attempt to repeal and replace Obamacare. But he has publicly signaled that he'd do so again. Obamacare, of course, is wildly popular, so at other times he has backed away from such things. But Donald Trump is a pathological liar, so we have no reason to take him seriously. The national sales tax that people are talking about, it would be the end effect of Donald Trump's tariff program. He's proposing tariffs on all exported goods, all imported goods into the United States, which would effectively be tantamount to a national sales tax. If he doesn't want such a thing, then he should disavow the tariffs that he has proposed. But instead, what he and J.D. Vance are doing are suggesting that no, it wouldn't have a deleterious effect on American consumers and families. It wouldn't be the equivalent of a national sales tax. People wouldn't eat the costs of tariffs imposed on goods in this country, when every economist, including conservative economists, say that actually no, it would cost American consumers and their families thousands of dollars as a consequence of these things. So again, Martha McCallum protests too much. And then, of course, Project 2025. Well, as Jessica Tarlov points out, dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens of people affiliated with Project 2025 worked for the Trump campaign, the Trump administration, or both, and many of them are quite close to Donald Trump, even now, close top advisors. And as a matter of fact, the Project 2025, the actual 1,000-page tome, references Trump dozens of times. He is name-dropped specifically in the text of Project 2025. They're running an entire right-wing conservative LinkedIn so that if Donald Trump wins the election, he would be able to staff the Trump administration on day one with diehard loyalists. It's a comprehensive program. We have Project 2025 authors and leaders saying that Trump has sanctioned their work. He is aware of their work, that he knows that they're doing it on his behalf, and his attempts to distance himself from Project 2025 is pure political expedience. We've played the clips of Kevin Roberts and others saying it's just good politics. You know, he has to say these things to distance himself and create an atmosphere of plausible deniability. Why should we take anything Trump says at face value when there's so much evidence to the contrary about this incestuous relationship between the Trump campaign and Project 2025? Martha McCallum doesn't want to deal with any of that, which is why she's so damn triggered by what Jessica Tarlov has to say. But I do also want to play this other clip, or this other part of the clip right here when they return to the conversation.
Totally. We have excellent counters of all political persuasions, but we also do have nonpartisan groups like the Penn Wharton group that put out their budget model and said that Donald Trump would take the deficit $5.8 trillion she'd only add $1.2 trillion. You had Goldman Sachs that came out today, and they said that the GDP will significantly decrease under Donald Trump and it'll continue to increase under Kamala Harris. Look at what Moody's has said, also nonpartisan, talking about how if you're going to round up a bunch of immigrants and you're going to have tariffs, which he keeps saying isn't a tax on consumers, and that's what the national tax is that people are talking about, if you're going to implement tariffs, guess what's going to happen? The economy is going to suffer for it. That's not what Kamala Harris is proposing. And the American public is
I'm going to steal 30 seconds for Brian here because I want you've been listening patiently. I want to get your last thought on this.
So again, the fact checks are what they are. The fact that Penn Wharton, we talked about this in a previous video, that is Donald Trump's alma mater. And they came out with a nonpartisan analysis saying that Donald Trump's economic proposals, his budget, would be inflationary, that it would add much more to the debt and deficit than Vice President Harris's. You have Moody's Analytics saying the same thing. Multiple macroeconomists have said that. And it makes sense, right? Because when we do analyses of the Trump administration's fiscal profligacy compared to the Biden administration, the Trump administration spent twice as much, even when you control for COVID. Why on earth would anyone, by any stretch of the imagination, that by conservative standards of fiscal responsibility, why would anyone assume that a second Trump administration would be fiscally responsible when the first administration was anything but, again, by conservative standards? It's so funny to see Jessica Tarlov in these other situations. She's so damn good at what she does. She again clarified the national sales tax and how that's effectively, the result of the tariffs that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have proposed. But they have no rejoinder to this. They have no response to this. All Martha McCallum can do is cope and say, I can't wait for the debate, as if Donald Trump is in a position in terms of mental capacity and understanding of policy to actually substantively refute any of this in any of his debates. 2016, 2020, and even in 2024, the first disastrous debate with President Biden, Donald Trump never spoke to policy because he doesn't understand it, domestic or foreign policy. The vice president, on the other hand, for whatever deficits you think she might have rhetorically, she is more than a match for him. She is smarter than he is. She is better studied on the substance, and she has a long and rich history of successful substantive debate as a career prosecutor, from district attorney to attorney general of California to senator, U.S. senator from California to vice president of the United States, and hopefully in November, the president of the United States. So anyway, great performance by Jessica Tarlov. Let me know what you think in the comments.